I was recently asked a tricky question. What is the best piece of advice I've ever been given? Specifically, what is the best piece of business advice I've been given? And there was something that I'm going to share with you now that was the best piece of advice that just made a huge difference to my success in business. It completely changed everything. What was it? Well, maybe not what you think. It was, drum roll, the top have more headroom. What on earth does that mean? Let me explain. Let's start with a bit of context. So at the time I was running a pretty big sales team, 45 field salespeople who were producing about $25 million worth of sales per quarter. Quite a bit of sales, quite a bit of revenue. It was a software product to large corporations. The sales people divided into these three pieces where roughly 20% of the salespeople were the top performers, 60% would be in the middle area, and 20% were at the bottom. This is what the revenue that they were producing individually looked like. The top 20% of 45 salespeople is around 9 salespeople, and they were on average doing in the region of just over $1 million each in sales per quarter. The remaining 60%, 27 salespeople, were doing about half that, about 500,000, 490 average number. They'd all vary slightly. They didn't all do exactly the same amount of revenue, obviously. That's the sort of average number. They were all in that ballpark. And the bottom 20% were hopeless. I was racking my brain. How do I get sales up? How do I get these salespeople to be better performers, better than they are currently? And how do I get these from the bottom up into the middle section? What do I need to do? So I really took a pretty traditional approach to managing those people, and I focused on these guys, assuming these guys know what they're doing, they're top performers, just leave them alone, let them get on with it, they're doing great numbers. It was things like sales training and aggressive targets, and what sales managers typically do, they talk to the individual salespeople, find out where they are, hold them accountable for their forecasted numbers, try and help them close deals, that type of thing. So we'd do all of those things, and I got a result from it. We got an increase. That resulted in the numbers going up for the middle range and for the bottom range. It was quite a successful approach. It resulted in about a 14% increase, so an increase of about 3.5 million per quarter in sales. So success, you might think. But then I had that magic piece of advice, just to remind you what it was. The top have more headroom. What does that mean? What I did instead is I changed my focus to the top performers and thought about what can I do to facilitate these guys and help them do more than they're currently doing. And they killed it. Massive increase. They doubled the amount of sales they were getting. What I did was I enabled them. Rather than getting all the salespeople to do all the things that were expected, enter details regularly into the CRM system, do their expenses, do all their own follow-up for their projects and clients, what I did is I got low-cost inside salespeople and I paired them up so that these guys who were top performers already had an assistant that would just run around after them and do all the busy work, do their expenses, do whatever they wanted. They would have somebody they could call, and whatever they needed to do, they could get that person to do it for them. If it was doing expenses, entering an update into the CRM, whatever it was, following up with existing clients, booking appointments, doing all those sort of things. When I took all that busy work from those salespeople and allowed them to focus just on closing deals, on doing the part of the sales cycle that they were extremely good at, their revenue doubled for each one of them. By doing this, I got a 56% increase in sales, which is a $14 million update. So which is the best approach? What would you do? Would you do this, which is what sales managers typically do, hassle the salespeople, push them, have you closed this deal yet? Do all of that kind of stuff? Or would you exclusively, you just basically do some basic work for these, not high effort, yeah, get them on a bit of sales training occasionally, or would you focus on enabling these guys? Now there's more to it than that, and in the next video I'll go into a bit more detail as to exactly how I manage this sales team. And I was able to get the increase in these guys by a small degree, maybe a 10% improvement, but I was able to double these and get 100% improvement. And that's what I mean by when I say the top have more headroom. What I mean is, and this is, to me, this is totally counterintuitive. The top performers have more ability to increase than the middle range or the bottom range. And that is, in my mind, awesome advice and awesome counterintuitive advice. As a result of getting this large increase and doing some other things as well, not just this, but this is one of the biggest pivotal things, I did very well in business. Interestingly, I found this is amazingly consistent across sales teams. As I've worked in different positions in different organizations and managed different sales teams, whether they be large or small, selling big ticket items, selling smaller things, there's always this kind of distribution curve where even if there's just 6 salespeople, you get 2 of them that are doing the bulk of the revenue, some guys in the middle and somebody at the bottom. And it almost always follows something similar to this. The trick is you get those top performers, enable them, take off the burden of expecting them to do the same work that the middle performers do. Whatever you can do to help them be more efficient, don't think of them as being lazy. They can't be bothered to complete their details into the customer relationship management software. Give them somebody that'll do it for them. Just enable them to do more. This is such a great piece of advice. The top have more headroom. I found it has consistently worked in different organizations. It also seems to work if you've got a sales team or if you've got a different type of organization where they're doing some physical work or doing some technical work of some kind. There's always a narrow band of top performers. If you enable them to go faster and do more, they'll increase by a much larger margin than the average workers. When you've got talent, enable the talent might be another way to say this. The top always, in my experience, have more headroom. That's a great piece of advice.